Let's do this.
Ready?
Yeah. You
Are
can
we live?
introduce yourself. Yeah, you can
Oh,
introduce yourself. It's not live, but I'm recording.
okay. My name is Jesse Saunders. I was a former vegan. I was vegan for, well, I guess we can get into that. But my name's Jesse. I'm a personal trainer. I live in Virginia, and that's kind of my background
Okay.
for now.
Yeah. How did you find my video? You want to tell that?
Yeah. So I found you from Jake's, who was formerly the Flat Earth asshole, now Jake the asshole. Uh, Found you from his recent video, that vegan video that he made. And I think I saw your comment on there or something. Or no, he said that he used your footage or like your video footage for that video. So I
Right.
checked you out, and you had a lot of good content on there, and I thought a lot of interesting content. So I subbed to you, and then you just recently posted this vegan thing here, and I was like, hey, let me help out. Let me get the truth out there.
Yeah. So when did you get into it, and who told you about it?
Veganism.
Yeah.
So it started from vegetarianism.
Hmm.
So I met my wife in 2012, and she's born and raised vegetarian. It was something that I never ever really considered doing until I met her. She seemed really healthy to me, and kind of there was this whole kind of spiritual aspect to it. So it was intriguing to me.
Hmm.
So I started out as a vegetarian. I was vegetarian for probably 2 years, and during that, I definitely noticed some decline in my muscular strength. As a personal trainer, that's something that's really important.
Yeah.
And so that kind of started to fade. I didn't really pay any attention to it. All my focus was on the diet. And so after about 2 years of vegetarianism, I went to veganism because I saw a lot of vegan YouTubers doing their thing, and they were all talking about how healthy it is, and it's the meat is so disease causing, and you know all that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then I got into veganism, and I was vegan for almost 2 years. And within those 2 years, I also experimented with fruitarianism and raw food. So I would kind of go through spurts where I would eat maybe 2 to 3 weeks of just raw food, like raw fruits and veggies. And I also experimented with liquidarian diet a little bit.
Oh.
And it was, I mean, there were some aspects to it that felt good. Like it felt almost like this cleansing feeling. But the overwhelming weakness that I felt was just, it was just too much. I couldn't handle the weakness any longer. And that's essentially what took me back to eating meat again.
Hmm.
I just felt like I couldn't lift any weights. When I lifted weights, I couldn't put on any gains. I felt very fatigued, very tired all the time. And it was just like a never-ending like journey of becoming more and more sensitive to everything. Like I just couldn't handle anything anymore. Couldn't handle exercise. Um, couldn't handle certain foods anymore. Like all of a sudden I was allergic to cats. I had never been allergic to cats or animals in my
Hmm.
life. Um, I felt like my nose was congested all the time. I was having a hard time sleeping. It was, it was stuff I had never really um, experienced before. So
Did
I
you
knew that it was,
also develop allergies to other foods?
uh, I don't think allergies, but I became like
Intolerant?
I became hypersensitive
Hmm.
to foods. Like if I were to eat, um, something that was a bit more refined or processed, it would not. It would just totally destroy my system. Like I couldn't handle it whatsoever.
Okay.
Um, yeah, any kind of chemicals or anything that was outside of sort of the organic, natural food spectrum would really mess me up big time. So, you know, I know that there's a lot of vegans out there who are like, oh, well, you probably weren't eating the right diet. I know they like to say that. They're like, oh, you were eating junk food or whatever. Not at all, man. I was like strict as hell. I mean, we were eating beans and, you know, lentils and rice and, I mean, really healthy vegan food. Um, but the problems persisted. It just never got better. I was kind of like waiting in those 2 years. When's it going to get better? Like, when am I going to start feeling stronger? But it just doesn't happen. I just kept feeling weaker, and it just never stopped until I had to go back to meat. It was just,
Yeah.
that was the only solution.
How old are you?
I'm 31.
Okay. Yeah, because most of the people who promote it are around 20, and they don't understand how when you get older, the harder it gets. Like most people
Yeah.
who fail are beyond 30, 40, it gets harder. 50, it's really hard to do it.
Yeah. I think that's probably true. A lot of these vegans are really young and their bodies can kind of handle it at that age. But yeah, once they get a little older, and I mean, I don't like to blame things on age, but it is true that, you know, things kind of start to slow down a little bit. Um, but yeah, it was just, you know, it was such a, and once you get out of it, you kind of realize how much of a sort of cult that whole movement is. I don't think, you know, not everybody who's involved with it is like that. I have a personal trainer coworker of mine who's vegan, and she's very, you know, relaxed about what everyone else does and doesn't mind what everyone else is eating.
Hmm.
But the majority of the movement, I think, is like really, I don't know, really firm in their belief, and they push it onto other people. And if you don't believe exactly that way, then, you know, you're out of the cult, basically. So when you join, you kind of feel like you have to be like that. You have to develop this
Yeah, yeah,
mindset,
yeah.
you know? There is no other way than to think exactly like that.
Hmm.
And I became just like that, man. You start hating other human beings. You start hating the human race. Um, you know, you start putting animals' lives above humans. It was getting bad. I was becoming very unmotivated with work. I became very unmotivated with material things and wanting to, you know, wanting to get more wealth and material things. And, you know, when you're raising a family, that's a problem. That's a big issue. Like, you can't be like that when you're trying to support other people. And so it was definitely a downward spiral. And it took me going to India to actually go back to eating dairy and meat again.
Uh-huh.
I didn't transition back to meat and dairy until I went to India. We stayed in India for like 6 months. We were there in 2016 from August until February of 2017. And I ate some dairy for the first time in I don't know how long. And it felt amazing. Like all of a sudden, I got this sort of renewed strength just from a little bit of dairy. Like that was it.
Yeah, yeah.
It was an instant feeling of like, whoa, like, okay, something feels like it's nourishing me that I haven't felt in a long time.
Yeah.
And that's what opened the seal. I went back to dairy. And then that very night I was thinking about eating meat. And I was like, oh man, it was a hard night because I had to ignore all the vegan brainwashing in my head, you know, all the videos of animal cruelty and all that stuff, man, all the vegan gain stuff. And I had to ignore it and just listen to my body. And I couldn't ignore my body any further. And essentially that's what brought me back. I listened to my body and I ate the meat the next day. And sure enough, I felt like my strength was coming back.
Hmm.
It was undeniable. I mean, what was healthy for me and what was not.
Yeah.
It couldn't be, you know, it couldn't have been more clear for me.
Many people report this when they first start eating animal foods again.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And I'm happy people are starting to make videos like this. I think this is like a scary topic for a lot of people to put out on the internet because because of how aggressive the vegan movement has become.
Yeah.
You know, you put on one anti-vegan thing and they all come attacking. And I mean, I'm sure this is going to get we're going to get a bunch of haters on here.
I've had death threats, so
Really?
yeah.
Yeah. Not surprising. Not surprising at
And
all.
they want to kill people who are technically animals, and then it makes no sense at all.
Yeah. They think that they're fighting for like peace for everyone, and then they end up becoming more aggressive towards humans than they ever have been in their entire life.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden they're spewing all this hate, and they don't see it because they're so blinded by the dogmatic vegan view.
Mm.
It totally masks, what they're actually doing. And yeah, it's unfortunate. And hopefully it starts to hopefully it slows down or dies down at some point.
Mm.
I don't.
Did you
But
did you believe that killing animals is wrong?
definitely,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I believed any form of killing any sentient being was wrong. So that, included the fur industry, that
Yeah.
included bees, the use of getting honey from bees and stuff like that.
Mm.
Yeah, all of it. And I mean, it's a difficult realization to come to because the sentiment of veganism is good. The idea of no harm to all beings is a really good sentiment, and it's a valid sentiment. But the only problem is that our biology doesn't allow us to live like that. At least I think the majority of us can't live healthy as a vegan. We just can't do it. We're just not, as much as you want to believe it in your head, your body is going to tell you otherwise. That was my experience. I wanted the vegan diet to work so badly. I wanted it to work so badly.
Mm.
But I had to be honest with my body. I had to be honest with where my life was going once I started being vegan. And when I really was honest about it, I couldn't continue that any further for myself or for my family. It just wouldn't have been right. So
Do you
that's
have
pretty much
children also, or do you not want to
yeah.
talk about that? Did you feed them a vegan diet?
So I went vegan when my first son was probably like 1 or 2, I
Mm.
think. And so he was born vegetarian, and then as I became vegan, I started pushing my whole family to become vegan, as
Mm.
vegans do. And so we all basically became vegan. I mean, I was like a Nazi about it, just
Oh
super
well.
strict. Yeah. And so he was vegan for quite some time. I mean, he was vegan throughout my whole vegan experience. And we actually conceived our second son while we were vegan. And so we had him when my wife and I were both vegan, and my first son.
Yeah.
And so it's so funny because he was born by vegan parents, but once I started eating meat again, he was like a true carnivore, man. He couldn't get enough of the meat. Like he was all over it. And I think his body was just missing it so much. It was such a natural thing for him to eat. He had no problems with it. And so, yeah.
Was your wife still breastfeeding him?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
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 Because a lot of vegans believe that there's vegan children out there, but don't realize that all of them get milk because that's the same thing. It's full of cholesterol, B12, and so on. And there are no vegan children who only eat plants as in actual vegan children or babies because there's so
Right.
many cases of them dying. I don't know if you have heard about it. And the hospitals say that there's thousands of cases, but there's some kind of almost like a cover up. It goes all unreported. In Belgium, for example, um,
Mm-hmm.
mm,
You're saying of kids who don't
uh,
their
th-
mothers breastfeed them?
vegan women who maybe they are not able to breastfeed, but the babies who die for because they try to feed them only plants. And the
Right, right,
vegan mothers and the people who are into it don't realize that if they get the milk from the mother, that's it because it's animal milk and it has
right.
everything you need.
True. Yeah,
Mm,
yeah, yeah. No, she breastfeeded for a good what 2 years? No, a full year. We
yeah.
breastfed. So yeah, yeah. What do you think's going to happen with this whole movement? You think it's gonna? You think it's on the rise still? Or you think it's
It's hard to say. I would hope that it's gonna die because I don't want more people to get hurt.
right?
Mm,
Now, have you met vegans who are really healthy?
no, never met any healthy ones. I don't think that they exist.
Well, and actually, I just met with an old friend who was vegan when I met him, and he was a big player in me going vegan. And I met with him maybe 6 months ago, something like that, and he was still vegan, of course. He was looking not very healthy at all. He was
Mm,
looking very weak physically. If you're watching this, buddy, I love you, but you got to get stronger.
mm.
he's still vegan, I think. And yeah, there's like I said, one of my coworkers is a vegan. I don't know how long she's been vegan. Um, she seems she seems healthy right now. I don't know how long she's been doing it, and perhaps some people's bodies can handle it longer than others. I
Right.
don't know.
It all depends on vitamin A, for example, how much you have saved up in the liver, because vegans then show their blood tests and don't realize that they start eating their own body. So you start getting the vitamin A from the liver, the B12 from the liver, which you have stored up from the animals that you used to eat. Or you start getting the calcium from your bones, and your bones start to deteriorate. And then they
Hmm.
say, my calcium levels in the blood are fine, but that's because you're eating yourself. And
Yeah, that's exactly how it felt. It honestly feels like you're being eaten by yourself.
it's a fast. That's what Dr. Natasha Campbell said. I don't know if you have heard of her.
Mm.
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 Yeah, you could look into it. There's a video called "Want to Go Vegan Vegetarian." I uploaded on my video on my channel. She talks about all of this stuff that people go through and explains it. Once you look into nutrition, you understand what's going on. That's the problem in veganism. They mostly talk about uh, so-called morals, which are man-made, so good and bad, blah blah blah.
Yeah,
Not much about nutrition. If you look at the documentaries, it's 90% about killing animals is wrong.
yeah, that's true.
Mm,
Hardly anything about the actual science, nutrition behind it. Now, I feel like it's becoming mainstream. Like these, did you see the new Star Wars movie? Did you
no.
see? Okay, so I honestly feel like the vegan agenda was being pushed in that movie.
Okay,
There's,
tell me.
there's, I don't know. There's a scene with Chewbacca where he's about to eat this little like bird creature that he's already cooked, and then he's about to eat it, and then one of the live birds comes up and starts, or it has like a really sad face. It's looking at him like, "Oh, don't eat my buddy, don't eat my brother,"
Yeah, yeah,
and he chooses not to eat it.
yeah.
And that, I mean, that you've never seen anything like that in any Star Wars before.
Mm,
It, to me, it felt like like a small little vegan, like you know,
absolutely, man. There's a lot of this stuff actually, and when you start thinking about cartoons that we see as children and how animals are portrayed, then it really clicks because
mm,
it's totally totally messed up because all animals are shown as these friendly beings, and because we live in a city and we have no a lot of us we have no connection to how animals actually are and what they eat and so on, and then
yeah,
we want to see them as these friends, and then we can
right,
say don't eat your friends, and
yeah.
that whole thing also doesn't make sense, but
Well, I wonder why it's like why is this agenda being pushed? I mean, this is, it's happening in cartoons, it's happening in movies. Celebrities are doing it and they're pushing it. I mean, is this some agenda that's going on? Like they're trying to push everyone into veganism? And if so, why? What's you know, uh,
Absolutely. For one thing, it's depopulation because a lot of people go infertile and the women lose their periods. But that happens more on fruitarian diets. But after a while,
yeah.
a lot of
Yeah, it's yeah.
yeah, go
So
on.
well, that's my experience. I mean, that was my whole experience. I mean, I honestly felt like I gave it 110%. You could ask my wife. I mean, she was there. I was a total pain in the ass with her, and in just like how serious I was about it. And I mean, I didn't eat any processed food. I mean, I cut that out completely. I was eating healthy, whole foods, vegan whole food diet, just like, your big YouTubers tell you to do.
Hmm.
And I gave it a solid effort, almost 2 years. I mean, that's a long time to do it. And
Hmm.
didn't work, was not good, not healthy. I do not recommend it to people.
Yeah. If you look at the food pyramid, it used to be grains, vegetables, fruit, but sort of some kind of meat also. Then it got less, 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 and now it's two little pieces of meat. You can hardly even see it in the My Plate. It's what they came out with. And then there's even fake meat added to it and soy. So,
Is
yeah. So at some point, they're just going to cut out the meat. And
yeah.
once they do that, then they will easily cut out eggs and dairy and officially say that veganism is super healthy and everybody should go vegan. And then
Oh,
it's hell
yeah.
if that really happens.
Well, and then I wonder what happens then. At that point, do they start like outlawing meat or saying that like, nobody can eat meat anymore? Outlaw hunting. Nope, can't kill any animals. They're not meant to be killed. I mean, that could be the end like scenario there.
It looks like it because
Yeah.
everything is pointing to it. They talk about how animals are dying in the wild, so they will make it illegal to hunt. And it is already hard because in a lot of places you need a license. For
Right.
me, it's the same thing. And then they are producing this fake meat right
Yeah.
now, so much of it in the United States especially, and you can't even tell when you buy what is real. And if you buy fast food, you could easily get fake meat.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's a reason they are making all of this, and there's a lot of investors behind it. Bill Gates and all of those huge companies are totally supporting it, and it's good
Yeah.
money for them, of course.
Right.
And the big pharma, the supplement industry, those pills. Did you take anything B12 or so?
Yeah. I was taking. I did a good amount of stuff. I mean, I would take spirulina. Isn't spirulina supposed to be a really good source of B12?
It
Like
actually
those.
has a B12 analog, which the chemical structure actually only resembles B12. It's not even B12. So
Ah.
what it does, it can even hinder getting the actual B12. It can mess you up even more.
Yeah.
Mm,
I didn't take any um, B12 supplements. I don't think.
okay.
I mean, what are the only ways that you can do it? Don't you have to like inject it or something? I don't know.
Or take the pills.
And what is the pill made from? Like it doesn't.
That's another story because it's 99% is made from sewage sludge, so basically shit and piss. And to get it out of it, because there really is B12 when we go to the
Yeah.
toilet, but the whole point for humans to make a little bit, even if you have super good bacteria, it would be in the
Mhm.
large intestine, then you would shit it out to feed the soil, so the plants grow and so on. If we could do it, and that's a whole other question, but
Mhm. Well,
when the bacteria ferments and everything, yes, in the end you can get B12 out of it, but the whole process of how it's made, what you actually end up with, is not B12 at all, and it's
mm,
basically is called cyanide because that's how it breaks down. And then there's another version which is pretty expensive and that supposedly works, but there's no proof of it because there's no proof that any supplement works.
yeah.
Vitamin D, for example, is made from irradiated vegetable oil. So that has nothing
Mm,
to do with vitamin D because that's an animal hormone, and you can get animal hormones from vegetable oils. Because they find a similar structure, they are allowed to sell it as vitamin D. But it's a
mm.
business.
Scammed, man.
Yeah.
Scammed. Yeah, no, I didn't do any of that. And a lot of vegans would always say, um, you know, everyone has vitamin B12 deficiency. They would say meat eaters are just as deficient as plant eaters or vegans. So I
Yeah.
didn't do anything, I don't think, in particular for that. I
Mhm.
doubt that was the reason why I was, getting weaker. I don't think that was the reason.
It wouldn't
'Cause-
help you anyway. As I said, there's no
Yeah,
proof that any of it helps. The vegans
right.
simply live from the B12 in their liver, and at some point they just use it up, and that's when they feel like shit.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's my story. I hope it was helpful, man. I hope your viewers find it helpful. This was my God's honest experience, and in my personal opinion, as a former vegan, if you're gonna, be careful when you try it. It's not. It definitely wasn't healthy for me, and I'm in the fitness health industry. I mean, this is the field that I'm in. So
Hmm.
my health is paramount. Um, I have to be in, tip-top shape physically, mentally. And so I had to stop doing it for that very reason because it was starting to impact my work, everything. It was starting to impact everything in my life in a negative fashion.
Hmm. Did you have any
So
other health issues you maybe forgot, or was that it?
uh, that really was pretty much it. I
Mm.
mean, um, yeah, I mean, I was, like I said before, very unmotivated, became very unmotivated. My thinking became kind of paranoid. Um, that was pretty much it. No serious physical ailments. Luckily,
Mm.
I imagine if I had continued it possibly would have manifested.
Yeah.
But I nipped it in the bud early,
Yeah.
and I'm not that. It's because I don't follow the herd. I mean, I wanted to try veganism because all these people were saying it was really healthy, and they were swearing their life by it. So okay, let me try it. If this is really the healthiest thing, let me try it out. Tried it, didn't work.
Did you have any friends who were vegan and
Yeah, so the one who I used to work with, he moved to North Carolina. He was a vegan. He
right,
he talked to me a lot about it, and he was another big influence on me going vegan for
right, okay.
sure.
Yeah.
Because he's a real kind of spiritual dude and very chilled out and mellow, and he's a wise dude. But the vegan diet, it was so I connected the wisdom and all that stuff with vegan diet and spirituality. And but I didn't have a lot of other vegan friends outside of
Right,
that.
okay.
Yeah. I mean, where I live, it's not really prominent. Like in Northern Virginia, it's not a ton of vegans. If I were in California, something like that, it's probably a lot more
Hmm.
popular there, I imagine.
Okay.
But
All right, man. Cool. Thanks for sharing.
absolutely, it was my pleasure. Thank
Yeah.
you for the opportunity.
Okay.
I'll see you around on YouTube then, yeah? I'll
Yeah,
be watching your
man.
video.
Yeah. Okay. Take care.
All right, brother.
Bye.
Bye.